If you're hoping to create a retreat or simply to deepen relationships and loyalty among your clients and members, as we all should, then you're going to love this. From hosting retreats for more than a decade, I still learn something new every time. My retreats look very different from the first one I ever hosted a decade ago or more, and I've learned the most from my attendees after retreats. It's not just been about logistics and how did it go for me. Having quiet time to journal on a trail and cooking together. Those were two things that were suggested and requested after I hosted, I think, a pre-pandemic retreat here in Phoenix. And I thought to myself, what? You want me to give you white space? You want to pay me for white space? Like I'll send you out on a trail and tell you where to go with a journal and come back in an infinite period of time. Absolutely, I'll do that. And then cooking together instead of having it all catered or going out to a restaurant. That's what they wanted. They were craving community, time together. So very cool to learn those little life lessons and then really take them all the way. Among the most fun activities we did at a recent 2023 retreat, by the way, it was a 4.5-day retreat. One of the most fun things, and it was the most economical, was charades. Charades after dinner one night. That was our entertainment. We also held a team best shot putting competition in my backyard at a putting green. But what was most fun about this, no, it was a lot of fun. But what was most fun about it is there were plenty of non-golfers in our group. And they tried to figure out what this was ahead of time and imagined it was shot pudding, that we were going to do a shot pudding competition. So the rest of the weekend, after someone had admitted this was their thought process prior, that was just a private joke among everybody attending, which was a rich goal achieved we didn't know we had. Now, among all of these things, charades and a putty competition that cost me, a couple very reasonably priced putters off of Amazon to have enough for teams to play with. I also included a midnight trail ride to dinner and then back through the desert. And that wasn't the most economical or the most feasible and gave me a little pause with liability. It was the charades and the putting that they were all talking about through the last day, about how fun that was because of the laughter and the connections. I'm Deborah Atkinson. You're listening to She Means Fitness Business, a division of my business, Voice for Fitness, where we all know you want to be an inspirational example to other midlife women yourself. And in order to do that, we all need to have a profitable health and fitness business. And the problem often is lack of clients, lack of traffic, or a lack of revenue. You're not charging enough, girlfriend. And I help you with that. I know exactly how it feels to have the knowledge, have the heart to want to help, but not be able to get your name out there or be found, because I started over at 49. So I had to put everything I'd been teaching for 30 years to the test. And I can tell you that I went from zero revenue monthly to 6-figure months. And so can you. It's possible as long as you hold that space out open for yourself and you're willing to do the work, not more time, but smarter, and strategically come up with a plan. Most of us can't afford to go right to a high ticket offer or to a low ticket offer that is online and a program. We all want the passive income, I get it, but it's not going to be the first step that gets you to success. And I know what is because I've done it. All right. I want to invite you to book a call with me, but first I want you to book and download the Health and Fitness Professionals Scorecard. You'll find the link to that in the show notes. You'll see at a glance where your holes might be so that you can turn that around, especially before we begin a new year or a new season as it goes. My guest today, Joe Huff, and his business partner, Bridget Hilton, are obsessed with experiences. As keynote speakers, co-authors of the book Experiential, Billionaire, and Treasure Maps card game, and self-proclaimed experiential guinea pigs, they are passionate about inspiring people to live intentional, regret-free lives by going after audacious goals. They've trained to be summarized, danced with northern lights, tracked silverback gorillas in a hailstorm, stood face to face with a hungry lion on safari, visited 50 or more countries and 50 states, absorb life lessons from the Maasai Mara tribesmen, build schools for kids in need, and explored the experiential riches that life has to offer. I can't wait to dig into this, and I'm going to send you a little homework as well. The Flipping 50 podcast was released yesterday, and we kind of call these sister podcasts when we do this piggybacking. I asked Joe to come over after we recorded the Flipping 50 podcast because he's got a background as a fitness trainer, and I did not know that before we got on the recording. And what I learned is that asking him this very key question could potentially help you open up a revenue stream, but also do it very differently and position yourself in a way that, number one, we build loyalty. And let's face it, there's a lot of personal trainer choices out there. There's a lot of exercise choices, online, offline, hybrid. There's a lot, and you've got to be good. You've got to be worth it. You got to give people a reason to think that you are not an option, but the option for them. I think we start doing that today. I asked him some very, very key questions about what he would do if he were planning a retreat based on his experience, not only as an experiential billionaire, but he is a private personal trainer in a previous life. So he's got a lot to offer. Let's dig in. Joe Huff, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Deborah.
Well, and I like to say thanks for double dipping. You didn't know you were in for a double header today on the podcast, but I needed to pull you over here because, first of all, your episode with me on Flipping 50 was such a pleasure for me to hear and to talk about. But my wheels actually also get spinning for the possibilities for fitness and health professionals to have a bigger influence and for them to support themselves potentially better with another revenue stream. But not just that, it's like equally lighting themselves up while they're lighting up somebody else's life. Talk a little bit about like providing experiences. I know when I read your bio, you've done some crazy things. So I'm kind of wondering, did you do those things alone, or were you leading a group of other people to do those? And any thoughts on this whole idea of not just being a part of getting in better fitness or shape or dropping the medications, but having people aspire to do something with that newfound fitness and health?
Yeah, that's a great question. And first, I just want to say, yeah, I'm so passionate about fitness in general. It's just been such a massive part of my life and well-being. And it's funny because that's kind of, that leads right into my answer, which is the people that I've spent time with in any way, really, in fitness have become, some of the best friends in my life. In fact, I actually can tell you that I used to train people as a personal trainer. I write about this in the book, and that led to lifelong friendships with people that absolutely changed my life in massive ways I would have never imagined, because we spent meaningful time doing things, besides obviously just training. We became much closer. And that's what experiences do, right? Experiences, especially new and novel type of experiences, those experiences are the things that we encode, that we remember, that we all know this, right? If you went on a camping trip with somebody, and had like a great 3 days together, and it was, somebody that you otherwise maybe it was a coworker, for instance, you're going to know that person and be closer to that person from those 3 days than you would be from 5 years of sitting in the cubicle next to them, because you have a deeper understanding and you shared a meaningful, unique experience with them. And it's really easy to create those types of experiences, especially within the fitness community, because people that are into fitness, at every stage really are looking for fun, different ways to A, use their newfound fitness, and B, experience something that might, be fun and different. So it's not just the monotony of like a workout per se. So I really, really think that the opportunity, and you see some of it now, but the opportunity to create bespoke kind of, fitness type retreats where you go and you actually bond with some of those people that you work with, that'll bring you to a level of a relationship that you would never have otherwise. Those are going to become much more than just a typical client relationship. It's going to become a lifelong friend that has shared something with you that they're going to then share with their friends and people for a very, very long time. And the value for those types of experiences is actually, it's a lot. And it's something that people, once you start doing it, especially, I think will be willing to pay quite a lot for, because it's worth it. So it's a big difference in terms of like whether you're going to actually charge somebody to go and say, you're going to lose 10 pounds over X amount of days. We're going to go to the gym, blah, 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 versus, hey, we're actually going to go use we're going to use that new physical strength and conditioning you have, and we're going to go do a 4-day hike up in an area you've never been before. We're going to camp, and we're going to tell stories, and we're going to learn a lot more about each other, and that's going to bring a lot more to the table for people.
I love that. Okay, so I'm going to really tap into this. So this is something I didn't know about you. We're having an experience right here. Did you know that? So I didn't know that you had some history as a personal trainer. So that just brought you this question. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
No problem.
If you were going to host a retreat, having the experience that you've had as a personal trainer yourself, and having the privy and the knowledge of results from your survey, and listeners, we're kind of talking about an insider tip here. You're going to want to go and listen to the Flipping 50 podcast that was released yesterday. But knowing the answers to what people kind of want and value, what kind of a retreat would you create? What kind of activities would be in it? And what do you think that might be typically things included in a retreat could be left out because they don't actually hold the value for people?
Sure. Well, I think that's a great question. I think one of the things that you immediately can leave out is things that are very expensive, because most of the things that people want to do and bond over don't actually cost a lot of money. And I think that a lot of, companies and corporate retreats, et cetera, put together a lot of things that are very unnecessary. People want to relate to one another on a personal level, a deep level. That's why things like playing games or telling stories by the campfire, or, doing those types of silly, youthful activities are what actually bring out, the stronger bonds, things that create laughter and joy. You don't want to have just a challenge and not the fun. So I would say looking into whatever your catalog of childhood things that you did, if you would have gone camping or on some kind of getaway, things that you would have done as a kid and enjoyed. Those are the kinds of things, the kind of games that you could play. Anything that creates teams, that creates camaraderie. Whether you're playing horseshoes or you're playing frisbee golf or anything at all you can think of to do. It's really cheap, somewhat active and fun. Those are going to, and there's a team component or a competitive component to get people like a little more into it. That's going to bring a lot of fun to the table. And then you do have to have that level of some challenge that people can help and support each other get through, because that is something that I think, people never forget. You don't forget that person. That's why when you see like those, Tough Mudder videos and stuff like that, it's like somebody helping somebody else get over the wall. That's what you want. You want to like know that, we're all going to go for this X amount of mile hike, or we're all going to, cross country ski, or whatever the activity you decide to do is. You want to know that everybody's got each other's back. It's going to be a little hard, but we're going to do it. We're going to do it together to build that bond and that teamwork. So those are the kinds of things that I think are really, really important to incorporate into it.
Those are such great ideas. And I'm going to back that up with a little literally story from some of the Flipping 50 retreats that I've hosted. And most recently, the last couple I can think of were hosted here in either Scottsdale or Phoenix. And immediately after, I'm always sending a survey, what were the most loved things, and, check them, order them, any suggestions. I remember after hosting the first one here, and we do a lot of hiking, and I do that purposely to get them together in groups with people they're walking with, and walking and talking brings out things in people that just sitting and talking does not. You get comfortable, you get to know people, you
Absolutely.
suffer a little bit with people maybe. And not too badly, by the way, if you're thinking about coming, just putting that out there.
Well, I'm
But
thinking about coming. So,
when I'm sorry, but you're not invited. It's girls only. But I got feedback back that they loved the hikes, but they would have loved more time to journal on the trails. More white space they asked for, basically. And they also asked for, it would have been really fun if, a certain evening we could have just cooked together. Like
I
don't
love
do
that.
the catered meal. I'm like, yes. And
Love that.
and we've done things like charades and a putting contest on a putting green I have in my backyard. And those were some of the most memorable as compared to the horseback ride that I did through the desert. That was not what they commented on as being the biggest deal.
Yeah,
It,
that's because it's the bonding part, right? That's
yeah.
what's really interesting. And there's a place. I'm really glad that you brought up the catered meal. So to get people to go on a retreat that haven't gone, that aren't, they use the same excuses why they don't do other types of things that they have in terms of goals and dreams, right? Because there's obstacles. There's, they're a little worried. It's going to be hard. Is, the fears that they have. It's going to be comfortable enough. So it's really smart to have that, option, right? Where it's like, okay, we're going to actually have a catered meal the first day. Everybody's going to get cozy. Everybody's going to, show up and be like, oh, okay, this isn't so. And then you can kind of like start to like pull a couple of the guardrails off. It's like, hey guys, now let's actually get a little bit down and dirty. Let's actually have a meal, and not only have a meal and cook together. Let's cook a meal that's messy. There's been a lot of studies around this, which is really interesting. Things you have to eat with your hands they definitely increase the level of intimacy of the conversation. As soon as you start getting like your hands dirty, when if you're eating like peel and eat shrimp, you're going to have a different level of conversation than if you're sat like with a tablecloth, tucked in and the whole thing. So yeah, I think that that's really, really cool. And that's really smart.
That is great. Oh my gosh, that's a big mic drop today. Hosting a retreat, cook a messy meal. Love it.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a collaborative affair. Everybody gets their hands dirty and everybody's part of the action. So
Joe, this has been great. And I think such an eye opener, probably very simple for you to come over and lend yourself and your ideas to this. But I am sure, number one, everybody's going to want to go back and listen to the Flipping 50 episode, as I highly recommend that. But for those who are right here and also want to correct or connect, you just also released a book as we're doing this in real time, but it's going to be valid for a long time. What is the name of that book? Where can everybody get their hands on it as well as connect with you?
Yeah, of course. The book is called Experiential Billionaire: Build a Life Rich in Experiences and Die with No Regrets. It's about reframing what we consider wealth and realizing that the real wealth of our lives is our experiences. You can find the book on Amazon, and we also have a website, experientialbillionaire.com, that has our book as well as our card deck. A card deck, by the way, great game to play on retreats. And super fun, thought-provoking. And we have our websites. My business partners is bridgethilton.com and mine is joehuff.com. And there's lots of information about our keynote and workshops that we do.
So good. Okay, listeners. So we've got everything in the show notes for you, including the link back to the other podcast. I hope that you have that downloaded wherever you listen to podcasts. You can get it as well as this one. But the show notes will be at fitnessmarketingmastery.com/relationships and loyalty. And what are you waiting for? Let's start flipping 50 with your clients who need you right now more than ever.